Welcome to Parasocial, the people behind the protocols. I'm Aditi. We host this on a semi-regular basis. It started off as honestly just a way to catch up with our friends that were all
Love that.
smart and building cool shit. But then we decided other people wanted to listen in on it, and so why not just live stream it and talk about it more publicly. So I have here Nick,
Hello,
Nick from
hello.
Decal. Nick, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to chat today. And yeah, so I'm at Decal. I am the co-founder CTO of Decal, and we are a payments company basically, but not in the traditional sense that people are building payments in the space. We're trying to build a stablecoin native commerce for the world. And got a bunch of exciting stuff coming out, and we've been cranking away on a bunch of stuff.
Awesome. And we're gonna get into some of that stuff through this chat. But um, why don't you share a little bit about how you even got started on zeroing in on this payments use case on Solana? There's so much momentum around payments in general right now, and I think a
Hmm.
lot of the discourse is how do I know what chain to build on? How do I know what payments use case makes the most sense? There's obviously the commerce angle. There's general P2P transfers. There's cross-border remittances. Like, what about your experience and your background kind of led you to zone in on decal and the problem it's solving and how you're solving it?
Yeah, that's a great set of questions there. I think to take it from the top is like why are we building this and like what are we building kind of. And honestly, it's out of frustration. Like my co-founder and I, we both were at the Solana Foundation for about 3 years. He was also at Solana Labs. He helped launch the Solana Pay protocol back in the day, many years ago, and we sort of were getting frustrated at, there's so many powerful things that stablecoin based payments can do for the world, cheap and fast, especially when you're on a fast, cheap blockchain like Solana, where you can send someone $5 or you can send someone $1 million all for a fraction of a penny. And there's not really anyone that we think is sort of doing this in a good scalable way to reach everyday merchants. There's a lot of people building for the crypto audience where trying to build dedicated point of sale systems that are crypto exclusive, or trying to some of them are trying to onboard, call them regular merchants, web 2 merchants, the mom and pop shops, the coffee shops, the clothing stores, the places that people spend their money. They've tried to sort of onboard them and try to get them to accept stablecoin based payments. Some of them on really expensive chains, slow chains, some of them on fast chains like Solana, but they always sort of go at it in the same way of use this because it's crypto for crypto's sake. The tech is amazing. And a non crypto native merchant, they do not care about that. They are running a business that they want to be more profitable and be more successful for their business. They may or may not know anything about crypto. And if they do, it's probably, meme coins, NFTs. And right now we sort of think that this is the time to build this type of product where there's a lot of really positive narratives going around stablecoins right now, especially on fast chains where there's a bunch of big players in the space. You got Stripe doing acquisitions and trying to launch everything. Shopify does stablecoins. And then you have like the crypto native Coinbase and all these exchanges that are doing a lot of things and making moves for stablecoins. You've got Visa, MasterCard, they're all doing different types of card solutions and payment rails for that are based on stablecoins. And because of this like tailwind, again, we think now is sort of the right time to be building this. And we're going at it from sort of two sides. One, improving the consumer experience to actually have a good payments experience using stablecoins at the checkout counter. There's been a couple of attempts of people trying to do this for like crypto native audience, crypto native event, crypto native point of sale with their crypto native wallets, and this entire user experience where you would think it would be great, it's terrible. Everyone struggles with it. So that became such a huge frustration for us. We decided to leave the Solana Foundation and try to tackle this ourselves to build this. And then the other side of it is making it just buttery smooth and easy for merchants to actually accept stablecoins. They don't have to know anything about crypto. They don't have to know anything about stablecoins. They see it as another payment mechanism or payment method that they can accept. Maybe they already accept card and Apple Pay, Google Pay. Maybe they accept bank transfers for large large purchases, and stablecoins are just digital cash, digital dollars. So we're just making it buttery smooth for them to easily accept it. And you sort of need to build both sides of this, marketplace, if you will,
And them.
um, because if merchants don't have an easy way to accept it, they're not going to do it because they don't care enough. The card works fine for them. They're paying really high fees, but it works fine, and they pass those fees on to customers. So it's like this combination of all these factors that just made us decide Decal and stablecoins.
Yeah. And I remember you guys or the Solana Foundation had done a huge push around Solana Pay in Hudson Yards. I was living in New York at the time. And so there was a lot of like infrastructure in Hudson Yards to allow people to be able to pay with Solana for the goods in the stores. Is that kind of where you saw some of this friction come up? Because to your point, like a lot of these stores are in the broader context, like mom and pop shops, like they were bootstrap businesses, like unless the business case was really front and center for why they needed to use this,
Hmm.
they wouldn't. So I'm curious, like, is that kind of where some of that experience started,
Yeah,
where you were starting to notice the friction? Okay,
yeah, that was definitely some, like,
interesting.
even like the original Solana Spaces store in Hudson Yard. I had gone a couple of times, and they again were sort of not exclusively crypto native. They were trying to sell quality merchandise to anyone who wanted to buy it, but they did accept Solana Pay. They did accept stablecoin payments, and it was very friction packed, I'll say. Um, and then you have like other types of different events that have gone on, whether they're pop up events, they're dedicated conferences
Mhm.
that are selling merchandise, and the vendors are accepting stablecoin payments because of sort of the entrenched like wallet design. Like if you think of any wallet that you've used, any crypto wallet, they all have basically the exact same design. They're all sort of geared towards perps and degen things and meme coin trading. None of them are focused on payments. And the ones that are generally exclusively peer to peer, sort of like in this Venmo style experience. They're not
Totally.
really trying to push stablecoin native commerce. And the ones that are, it's not stablecoin native commerce. They're like offering a card service where you can conveniently spend your stablecoins, but
Yep.
you're not escaping all of the fees and those like traditional
You're
fiat rails.
still
It's
on
not
traditional rails. Yeah.
exactly. And
It's
merchants
just a
still have
veneer.
those two to
Yeah.
2 to 5% transaction fees and everything that just eat up the transaction and eat up these low margin businesses, and just part of their profit line.
Yeah, I think about that a lot with stablecoin cards where you're just immediately off ramping into fiat and then you're going through the classic like Visa MasterCard network. Um, so yeah, I mean, obviously big fan of what Decal is doing and excited to learn
Thank you.
more about how you guys are thinking about what this experience should really look like. So on that note, like what in terms of the ideal user experience between merchants and users, what is that in your mind? What should that ideally look like from payment to things like loyalty, rewards, to
Hmm.
things like ecosystem value between merchants and users? Can you talk to us a little bit about like the ultimate vision of what you think that user journey and
Yeah.
relationship should look like?
Yeah, so it's from a couple of sides. One, there's like call it the onboarding and the experience itself. It should be really smooth. Merchants, if they want to accept stable coins, um, you know, using services like Para where they can create a wallet using an email address. They don't have to worry about managing seed phrases or all the scary crypto things that people hear about. That helps remove a lot of friction points. The biggest friction point of onboarding, in my opinion. And then on the consumer side, like they have to be able to pay in a really seamless experience. People are used to basically a couple of different modalities for payments now. It's tap and pay. You just walk up, you tap, it works, and you're done. There's no friction there, right? As long as the merchant accepts it, which for the most part, every merchant in the U.S. Accepts tap and pay for the most part. There's cash and regular like card swipe or chip on a card. People are used to that. People are they're getting quite used to the QR code modality as well. And so like there's these different
Definitely.
ways that consumers can pay for things. But when you think of how you pay with crypto, with stablecoins, generally it's through a QR code. You scan it on your phone, you open it, and then you have to like pick and choose which tokens are transferring. Maybe you don't have those tokens that the merchant is saying, I accept this particular stable coin, but you don't have that stable coin. You have these other stable coins, or you have these meme coins that you want to try to pay with. So it's this really broken, fragmented experience for consumers that want to pay because of that entrenched wallet design that's out there. And so our solution for this is what we're calling smart payments. And basically it abstracts all of that away. You scan the QR code, you go to pay, and it says, merchant says, this bill is $10, $15, whatever it is. And our system will smartly detect, first of all, the cheapest transaction for everyone involved, whether it's us as Decal being sort of sponsored transactions and helping absorb those fees for customers, or it will also detect which stable coins you have, and it will smartly send
Hmm.
the correct stable coin to the merchant. But the nice thing is like you can sort of roll up all these stable coins together. If you think of US dollar backed stable coins, there's 5 or 6 really big players in the space, and for all intents and purposes, they're the same. It's a digital dollar. It's $1 of US dollar cash. So the merchant saying, "Hey, I want 5 USDC," but you have 5 PYUSD or 5 USDG, merchant should just be able to get $5 in cash. And so our system does that for consumers. It makes it just buttery smooth. It just happens and it works. It builds the transaction for you. So like when you go to sign it with your wallet, it says, "Hey, you're transferring $2 of PYUSD, $3 of
Yeah.
USDG," and the merchant's going to get $5 in cash.
Right. So the merchant doesn't even really need to know like how
Yep,
the
exactly.
yeah. This we talk about this so much at Para where in fiat world, $1 in my wallet versus $1 in my Amazon balance is like the same thing. There's really no
Exactly.
difference. But in crypto world, one USDC is so different from one
Hmm.
USDG, and like where they can be used is so different. The networks they're a part of, like it's just not the same thing, and it's not intuitive for consumers to know like which one to use where. I'm curious. This is such a tangential question, but I'm curious. Given you've been chatting with a lot of merchants, do
Hmm.
merchants have a preference on what stablecoins they care about,
Nope.
or interesting.
No,
Are you
they
noticing any preferences across like both the merchant profile and the user profile? Like, what does that look like?
there's definitely like region specific, I would say, expectations. I don't know if I'd call them preferences per se, but depending on the region that a merchant is coming from, they'll generally lean towards, saying one specific stablecoin. Like in the US, a lot of people will say USDC because that's what they're most familiar with. They've got, brand awareness in the US. But if you go to, say, Africa, USDT is incredibly popular, and USDC is like not used nearly as much. And so depending on the region, people are just more familiar with one or the other. So they might say, "Hey, I want 5 USDC," but ultimately, like our thesis is they don't really care. They want whichever stablecoin digital cash works for whatever whatever accounting systems and off ramping services they're using. Some off ramping services only accept certain stablecoins. You have to sort of
Yeah.
facilitate the merchant getting the correct one that will work for them in their systems. But that's like one of the magic sauces of our smart payment system is it handles all of that for everyone.
Yeah. And that fragmentation is so real. Just
Oh yeah.
between all the wallets, the money movement, the merchants, and the POS
Hmm.
system. So I think that's huge. On that note, like can you talk to us a little bit about how you're thinking through kind of the traditional card infrastructure experience and whether you think that's kind of fragmented or expensive. Like, I'm curious how you're thinking about your merchant network and where you're
Hmm.
thinking of growing that ecosystem first. I'm in Buenos Aires right now, and a lot of the merchants here accept crypto.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, and so it's been pretty cool to like pay with your para wallet for all these different merchants. But of course, like this started as onboarding a very specific set of
Hmm.
merchants in an area that were experiencing maybe, you know, instability with their local currency or high card fees. So what exactly is that network effect that you're going for? And like what locations are you starting with? And how are you thinking about growing that beyond that initial kind of node?
Yeah, yeah. It's a good question. I mean, the network effects of call them card services are vast. You can go anywhere in the world for the most part, and you can use a Visa or Mastercard to pay for anything. It's very accepted. Depending on where you go, you might have other card providers. Amex might be accepted or not accepted. What's the one that's popular in Asia? It's JCP, I think, something like that. But there's like typical cards that are available, And there's a lot of people offering these, crypto cards, if you will, that allow you to spend your stable coins through, traditional fiat rails. And that's great because it's one option for users, and it doesn't it allows them to spend immediately, right? They can do it now, and that's great. But the problem is sort of twofold. Is one, you're still on traditional fiat rails, you're still using those card networks, so therefore you still have all those card fees. Some merchants will, or some card providers will try to absorb some of those fees. They'll have points programs or things like that, sort of in like the Amex model, and that's fine because people can use it now, but it's not stablecoin native commerce. You're not escaping the fiat traditional finance world, which there's pros and cons to both for sure. Like there's the stability and access that you get with using a Visa or Mastercard around the world, but you still have those fees, and someone has to pay for those fees, whether it's the customer paying at the checkout counter or if it's the merchant that's raising their prices to cover that fee for their low margin business. Someone has to pay it. Part of our thesis is actually enabling stablecoin native commerce for anyone, any merchant, to actually accept it and make it, again, smooth for customers to do it. And there's like the very cognizant bit of information in our mind that payment habits take a really long time to change. My co-founder Josh, he used to work at Google for about a decade, and he was working at Google when like NFC tap and pay was like first created, and they launched like the first phone that did it, and it took about a decade for tap and pay to really take off and get mass adoption. Part of that's on the tech, part of that's regulation and compliance and all these things, but it's all these effects. Like now everyone uses tap and pay for the most part in the US. Like every merchant accepts it, and it's easy. So those existing payment patterns and user behavior, user habits are really hard to change. That takes time, but by offering really nice experiences and making it cheaper for everyone, and we haven't even gotten to like the composable loyalty thesis that you sort of
Yeah, yeah.
unlock with a lot of this. That there's just so many benefits that we at Decal, we're in it for the long term, and we want to see it come to fruition finally.
Yeah. I have so many questions based off that response. I'm gonna like go through it systematically. Okay, let's start with the last one you mentioned. On the composable loyalty thesis, can you shed some light on how you think that's gonna work in practice? Um, when I hear that, I think of, for example, if I'm traveling and I see like the little MasterCard logo in like a coffee shop, I immediately feel that there's like some sense of trust in the
Hmm.
transaction I'm going to be doing and buying my coffee. And so, is that kind of what you're envisioning with the like kind of next gen decal network, or how are you thinking about loyalty and rewards in
Yeah.
practice?
So it's kind of that, but kind of not. So on one hand, it's
Okay.
sort of brand awareness, sure, where it's like if you see a logo of a payment processor you're used to, Visa or Mastercard. Well, they're not quite processors necessarily, but you see those, it's accepted, it'll work. Um, you as like you might have one of those like points cards where you get 2%
Sure.
cash back on whatever you
Amex.
do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
those are super common with people that have them, but not everyone uses those. Like we in sort of like crypto bubble, it's very common. But I would argue that the average person is using either called a regular debit or credit card, or they're living paycheck to paycheck on credit cards, and a lot of times racking up credit card debt, which is unfortunate. Um, and by sort of offering this basically network effects of stablecoin payments to merchants and to customers, merchants unlock the superpower that is blockchain without recognizing it, where there's different types of like brand partnerships that merchants will do. So say you go to your favorite coffee shop that's a local chain, or even like a national chain, multinational chain like Starbucks or something. They have a loyalty program where you go in, you spend X amount of dollars, you get some points or stars or something with them, and you can only redeem those inside of that single shop. So if you say Starbucks, for example, you have your Starbucks points, you can only redeem those. They're only good at Starbucks. But with the composable loyalty thesis is that if you sort of put everyone on common rails, sort of the open API mentality, these merchants can benefit from each other, especially when you hyper localize to a community. And that's what we're incredibly excited about at Decal is, think of it like a community loyalty program, if you will, where you have, maybe multiple square blocks in New York City. They all are part of some sort of common loyalty program where they're all encouraging each other to shop local, go to your local restaurants, go to the coffee shop next door, the restaurant down the street, and all of them have some sort of shared loyalty program where they all accept the same, point system where you get 10 points for buying a coffee, 100 points for getting a meal at the restaurant, and you can redeem those points anywhere within the network because you're bringing more business to that network of merchants because they're all right there and they're all, have some
On the
sort of
same rail.
shared benefit. They're
Mm,
on the same rail. And so like that's one of the things that we're trying to offer to merchants. We're gonna be rolling it out in probably Q1, Q2 of next year, to allow merchants to sort of finally experience this without all the friction points that a lot of people have had in the past.
yeah. This was there was a so um I started working in crypto at Consensus in
Okay.
2017, and there was like a lot of early talk about this exact idea
Hmm.
because around then, like everyone was interested in kind of giving money back into their community, investing in the community, investing in like stores and restaurants that they lived around. But there was, and obviously there was at that time there was like a grand vision to do this on chain, but
Hmm.
there was no possible way to do it with a seed phrase and a wallet. And yeah, the
Too much
gas
friction for
fees weren't,
users.
Ethereum wasn't even feasible for that. And
Hmm.
yeah, it makes a ton of sense. I'm curious, how has this loyalty rewards thesis been resonating with the merchants you've been chatting with? Do they get it, essentially, is my question. Like, has it clicked?
Yeah, they do. There's because we've talked with a bunch of merchants already, and I would say there's probably two common themes that very much resonate with them. One of them is, sort of the Starbucks idea of like, hey, Starbucks makes a lot of money from their stored value product, where you top up your stored value with them and with Starbucks, and Starbucks makes about 5% of their gross margin, from or their gross profit from the stored value program. And a lot of merchants that have, call it the 25 to 100 locations, this like mid-tier section of merchants where they have recurring customers, they have some form of loyalty program. Maybe they're using, a Square point of sale terminal, which I've got one right here, got a Clover back there as well.
Oh, sick.
Um, they have like some sort of points program system baked in where they can, customers can earn points, but not a lot of them have things that you can actually like redeem those points for. It's like sort of a broken loop. Um, and so like when we've described basically the complete loop of what this can look like for a single merchant that has multiple locations where they have loyal customers that are coming in, they can reward those customers, give them coupon codes or special menu items that no one else can get. Um, that resonates a lot, because they know and they've done the numbers, done the math for their own businesses that these loyalty programs are incredibly effective at growing their businesses and making them more profitable. As the adage goes, it's easier to retain a customer than get a new one, and that resonates. And the other side is, a couple of the merchants we've talked to do different types of collaborations with other merchants. They're already sort of doing this,
Oh,
you know,
interesting.
local, whether it's local or national. Some of these are in multi states in the U.S. and they'll do these different collaborations with, like a specialty drink for this partnership, and they do that pretty often. And for one, they don't really have any way to attribute the like activity of that or like the actual like
Yeah.
effect on their
There's no
business. It's really
infrastructure.
hard to measure.
Totally.
Yeah, so it's really
Yeah.
hard to measure. So like when you put it on, Solana Rails, for example, you can provide a lot more of that than what they have currently, which is great. But it also makes it much easier for them to do it. And it even could be permissionless, which is has excited a couple of merchants. The example I like to give is like when you have complementary businesses that are, maybe in the same local area, on the same, like, hyper local loyalty program, whether or not they know it or not. So you could have like, your local gym right next door. Maybe they sell like, smoothies or something at the gym, and then there's a coffee shop next door on the same street. They can, when you're on like, common rails, they can incentivize each other's customers where you're not stealing customers from each other. You're not
Yeah.
necessarily competing businesses. You just are in the same area where if a merchant's able to say, you know, this customer A went to the coffee shop next door. I know they shop here locally. Maybe I'll give them a 5% coupon code to come into my restaurant in order to maybe hopefully bring me more business. You're not taking away business from the coffee shop by offering a coupon to these other customers that are already in your area. People are going to, keep shopping in the same area, especially for restaurants and bars and coffee shops and things like that. And so like that idea has really resonated with merchants, where if they can basically incentivize people that they already know are near their physical locations, and hopefully they can try to get more traffic in the foot traffic in the door and get more sales, like that's
Yeah.
very interesting to them.
I think Solana has done an excellent job at just pushing this idea of composability
Hmm.
with payments. And I think we've had chats with teams that maybe don't understand that concept so much, where you think of this is my customer base and these are my
Hmm.
users, but their perspective really opens up when you kind of
Scarcity
talk about
mentality
this.
right there. Got to
Right.
have
But then
abundance
when you
mentality.
exactly abundance always, but when you talk about this idea of like you are like being on chain means a user already has a wallet that's probably funded. And in this context with Decal and this merchant network, they are now like already an engaged customer that's maybe
Hmm.
shopping right next door. So you're not kind of stealing their customer, you're
Exactly.
compounding on their existing activity. So
Exactly.
that's really powerful. I hadn't fully connected how core composability was to the Decal business until you just explained this. So that's awesome. Um, in in your response about Josh's background, who is also
Hmm.
awesome, and I've also SF based, so we do have to hang out eventually in
Yeah,
person.
for
But
sure.
in the response about Josh, you mentioned tap to pay and
Hmm.
the fact that there was a lot that had to happen for that to finally be adopted into user behavior in the public, like regulation, like just the behavior of being able to do it really easily at UX. Are there any kind of regulatory movement or compliance considerations you're tracking in this world of decal and what you're trying to do with
Yeah, totally.
stablecoin commerce, loyalty, tokenized rewards? Obviously, Solana does a great job of like staying generally on top of that. Um, but are there any movements in the regulatory side of the world that you're tracking for Decal's business specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so say like general crypto legislation where you have like the Genius Act, for example, very stablecoin focused, where it's making stablecoin access and especially for payments more friendly for everyday merchants, everyday consumers too. So it's regulation like that makes it clear, and that's the important thing. It's brought clarity, and we still need a lot more clarity to be very clear. But it starts bringing clarity within the United States, and you have things like Mika inside of the EU, which pros and cons to that one as well. But it's starting to bring. We're finally having legislation that is bringing clarity and setting expectations for merchants, for businesses that are building on top of this technology, like Decal, like Para, and even like Stripe and Shopify. Like there's regulation that everyone has to follow, no matter where you are in the world, and that changes everywhere you are in the world, unfortunately. So that's some of that, and then there's things like you know with public blockchains, there does come some amount of like, I don't know if I'd say necessarily call it PII, personally identifiable information, but it's like adjacent. Where if you're on public blockchain, everyone can see your transactions if they know that that's your wallet. And there's that does scare some people when they're aware of it. I would say that probably most people are not necessarily aware of it or how easy it is to attribute transactions to wallets. Um, and that's something we're cognizant of. We think having a good solution for private payments and more specifically confidential payments, where you can have confidentiality that is not 100% private. There's pros and cons to all of these different approaches. So we're excited about some of the solutions that are coming out for that. Uh, and then for other things like loyalty programs in general, they're like in the United States alone, you got 50 states in the United States plus territories and Washington D.C. Each of those states might handle loyalty programs differently. take like gift cards, for example. Gift cards are a form of
Yes.
loyalty where some
Mhm.
states the merchant issuing the gift card, you're giving the merchant money. In some states, merchants are required to allow you to get that money back if you don't want the gift card anymore. Not every state though. So like these different laws and how you can be compliant changes from state to state. So it does get quite complex. So we're very cognizant of those things and have some thoughts and plans to support the different regions and different states and everything.
Totally. Yeah, and it sounds like you're starting with this like hyper localized network first and then kind of slowly growing from there.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Great. Tell us a little bit more about your work on Seeker. I've been
Oh
following
yes,
that.
we've
Yeah,
been
I would
teasing
love
things
to.
out.
Yeah, I'd love to learn more, whatever you can share. Go for it.
Yeah, sure, appreciate it. Yeah, we're building a dedicated mobile app, launching first on Seeker. Alpha, it's launching next week. And we this is basically our first foray into showing what this payments experience can look like. Because it's on Seeker, it's sort of implicitly crypto native. So we took this current version of the app and made it very friendly for crypto native, but still making it approachable. And then we'll launch on Google Play and Apple App Stores probably early next year. We're shooting for Q1 to make it so that way anyone can finally use it. Working with amazing partners like Para to allow people that don't already have wallets to have a really nice payments experience through stablecoins and can finally do stablecoin native commerce. But then the crypto native people, they can bring their own wallet if they already have it. So we're sort of like a BYOW, if you will, bring your own wallet solution, where if you already have a Phantom, Backpack, Soulflare, Seed Vault wallet that's like native on Seeker, you connect that to our Decal mobile app and you do your payments through Decal, and it provides a really nice consumer payments experience. Like we talked about our Smart Payments
Hmm.
solution, that'll be very front and center. And then the other side of it is Solana Pay. Like we are incredibly in love with the Solana Pay protocol. There's a lot of merchants around the world that do accept it in various forms, and we are part of our campaign here is we want to build this global directory of where can you actually spend crypto and in what modality can you spend crypto. Is it only through Solana Pay QR codes? Is it
Yeah.
through Coinbase Commerce? Is it through Crypto.com checkout? Is it through Stripe checkout? Like, where are you
Yep.
able to spend stablecoins? Because we, in sort of the crypto bubble, we've been talking about being able to spend stablecoins anywhere, and you can, but like, it's really hard to find them. So
And the
we're trying to make
modality
it
is
easy
such
to
a big
find
thing.
them.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, that's what I'm
That's good.
experiencing here is the modality is so different per shop.
Hmm.
And so
Exactly.
one place it's a QR code, maybe it's Bitcoin. Another place it's a separate experience and it's a separate token. And it's all kind of it doesn't really talk to each other. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's what we're going for the Decal mobile app, launching next week, and yeah, we have a lot of really big plans for it. And this is just like on our consumer side. This doesn't even really touch or talk about like the merchant side of the products that we're building, which we're cooking up a lot of fun stuff there too.
Anything you can share about what the merchant side, what you envision the merchant side to look like in the next 12 to 24 months?
Um, I mean, I've already said I've got these payment terminals behind me. Yeah, I mean, like we want to offer stablecoin native commerce to merchants without friction, um, using blockchain across the board, and we want to enable them, and we want to remove all friction for it. Um, Consumer payment habits are very entrenched. Merchant payment acceptance habits are also very entrenched. A merchant has a point of sale system that they have trained their staff on. They're not going to up and swap their entire point of sale system. That's too much friction for them for not enough benefit, at least immediately, and especially with how much stablecoin adoption we have now. That's why we have this unfortunate two-sided marketplace chicken and egg problem. Um, but we're tackling it from both sides, and we want to make it so merchants, no matter what point of sale system they use, can easily accept stablecoin payments. And if they want to be, educated about the benefits of stablecoins and crypto, we would love to help educate them. But if they don't want to think about it and they just want to accept it as another payment method, immediately send it to their bank account, great, we'll also enable that too. Because then you still get these network effects, you still get all these benefits, you still get these cost savings. That's what we're excited about for the next 12, 24 months.
Amazing. Yeah. Love the love that we're doing research on the different POS systems. I think they're all
Hmm.
they're quite different in
They are very
how people
different.
are
How you like integrate with them and how you use them. It's kind of
totally.
surprising.
Yeah, kind of surprising. Yeah. Um, okay. Last question on my side. This is actually more on the company building perspective.
Hmm.
What is one key takeaway that you've had from your experience building Decal on Solana so far? Like any surprises, any learnings? Curious.
Um, I mean, nothing specific to Solana. I've been in the Solana ecosystem for a long time now. So is my co-founder. So we're very familiar with Solana. We know a lot of the existing players, and that's been actually very helpful for us. We can easily get conversations with most of the popular known companies in the ecosystem, and that's been helpful for us. So it's a lot of network effects, pun intended. Um, that helps in a lot of ways. Uh, and I would say probably the other biggest thing that we've learned, or at least me, is writing all this code. We're currently just two people, and there's a lot of code to be written, and it just takes time when you're trying to build a two-sided marketplace and build this really nice experience. And I thought it would go faster. That's always the glass half full kind of person. Uh, Good stuff just takes time.
It's an incredibly ambitious product. Like
We try.
there's yeah, there's so many layers to it. I feel like I've learned so much more, even despite having had some
Hmm.
context on what you guys were doing. Um, Incredible. Any final thoughts before we wrap? Where can people find you? Uh,
Yeah,
how can people get in touch?
yeah. I'm Nick Frosty pretty much everywhere. Can find me on the Twitterverse. Uh, Decal.link is our consumer website. Use Decal as the Twitter handle. And yeah, check us out. Oh, and if you've got a seeker, look out for our seeker launch next week. And if you don't have a seeker, don't worry. We've got other stuff coming. Uh,
Amazing.
and then for anyone that's going to be at Breakpoint in Abu Dhabi this year, where Decal's going to be there, we're going to be doing some fun stuff, and come find us.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Frosty. It was an
Yeah,
honor.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, see you later.